Hi everyone, I hope you're doing okay. I think this month there is quite a bit to get through in my binder, so I'm not going to preamble too much. I have been going back and forth about it because my health still isn't good and I'm still dealing with some stuff. I have a lot of hospital appointments coming up. And my mood, to be honest with you, has not been the best, and when my mood is low, I don't really want to film videos. I think I worry that I'm not peppy enough, or that maybe I don't have anything productive or, I don't know, happy to say, if that makes sense. Trying to tell myself it doesn't really matter anyway, because I know you guys enjoy listening, and I know that I enjoy talking about like my filofaxes or my ring binders, and my system is still working really well. And now I'm however many months or a year and a half or something in, and it's still functioning, and I think that's really cool. And I do really enjoy talking about it. So I figured I would just commit to the monthly video anyway, show you the stuff that's been going on and how I've documented it, and try not to talk too much about other things. My Cafe Nero loyalty card is still on the front. I actually always forget that it's in here. I forget to take it out. But I do like the way it looks. So it's kind of decorative and not very functional at the moment. I'm sure one day I'll remember, but oftentimes when I'm in the queue at Cafe Nero, it's so busy that I don't really feel like whipping my filofax out. My Calendex needs updating. Hasn't been updated yet, but I will do it eventually. Books. I read the second Poisoner book, which was really good. I might have talked about that. And then I read these two books. I'll put the names of all the books in the description for you, because I can't remember quite what they were called and the thumbnails are really small. But these two were interesting. I felt like the first one let me down, but I think the second one made it better again. There's going to be a third one, I think a final installment. I did think it was a duology. I don't know why that always happens to me. I always think it's a duology or a trilogy, and then I find out that like it's an unfinished series. And I hate unfinished series. I don't enjoy the wait between books. Unless I'm really into it, I find it quite frustrating, and normally what I'll do is keep an eye on it and then wait until I know it's done. So realizing after the fact that there would be more of these was not ideal, but they were quite good. The concept is that there's these vampires, a pack of vampires or like a clan of vampires in Scotland, and they live underground in this place called the Warren, and I think that's a really fun concept to run with. And there are humans living in the Warren as like blood donors basically, and they're like under a compulsion. And the main character realizes very quickly in the first book that she can't be compelled. She gets kidnapped to be a blood donor and then realizes she can't be compelled. And that's kind of like the setting for the books. And as I say, the first one was okay. It starts really strong and then it kind of lost me, but the second one I think was a lot more interesting again, and I'm curious to see where the third one will go. So those were cool. These ones I read when I was a kid. They're called the Morganville Vampires. The first one is called Glass House, if anyone remembers those. I read them. I must have been, oh, I don't know, like 13 or 14, maybe 15 at a push. It would have been like paranormal romance era. And they were really good, and I remember I used to save my pocket money. I used to get £5 a week, and I used to save it for books, and books were never £5. I think when I was a kid they were around £6.99, and sometimes my dad would take pity on me and give me the extra £2. But I used to read these and I used to save for them, and then I would read them too quick and I'd have to try and wait until the following week to get the next one. And I never finished them. Apparently there's 15 of them now. So I picked the first one up for nostalgia's sake. I just really wanted something easy and kind of like comforting and nostalgic to read. So I picked up the first one. Diabolically good time. The only real downside is that the protagonist is 16. Like, that is astonishingly young. I'm only 29, but 16 to me now is like, that's a baby. And that's generally a rule, like not a rule breaker, a deal breaker for me. I don't enjoy books when the protagonist is like 18 or 17, or, you know, I just don't enjoy it as much. I'm looking for older protagonists at this point in my life. But honestly, I think because they're so nostalgic for me, I've been really enjoying them. I'm on book 5. I've got 3 on here. I've read the 4th one and I'm on the 5th one. And they're really fun. It's a bit like watching an episode of Scooby-Doo or Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something. Like, every book there's just new hijinks, and you have this cast of characters, and it's just, it's really fun. My headache and migraine diary is, you know, functioning. Am I functioning? Not really, judging by all the orange and red circles, but there we go. And then no new perfume yet. I've taken a break from that, just temporarily. I think I need to try and get through some of the samples I have. And then I'm gonna I have some bookmarked. I know what I want to try next, that's the problem. I know what I want to try next. I just haven't done it yet, haven't ordered. I wore Last Birthday Cake by Tosca again the other day, and it was so nice. And then I had a t-shirt on, I think, for like 20 minutes, and then I took it back off because it was too hot. And then I put it back on again like 2 or 3 days later because it smelled clean. And then as I was walking around the house, I could smell the perfume on it, and I was like, ooh. So that was nice. I'm still working through the last dregs of my blood spider orchid sample. I might have to buy that at some point because I think it's my ride or die. And then, yeah, so I archived pages. This is what my archive looks like currently. It's just a craft binder. And I think the craft binders are quite nice for personal because they fit, I feel like, I don't know if it's an illusion, but I feel like they have a bit more ring capacity than the frosted binders. I'm not entirely sure how true that is, but I'm kind of still undecided on which one I want to use long term. So all my February pages are in here. Obviously with Manchester. The only downside, obviously, is the rings are so cheap and everything always gets caught on them. And then, what else is in the back of here? March, April, yeah. So I think these would have been the last pages you saw, just so you know where we're at with it. Yeah, perfect. So that's what my archive looks like. And then what I did was leave most of May in here. So this is the last week of April, and I travelled to Wales for my grandmother's birthday. I had a little hospital trip before that, which was not fun. And I have found this illustration on Tumblr, I think, that just says things will get better. And then it says, I'm tired of feeling this way, which is a little bit edgy, a little bit moody, but very much kind of where I'm at with everything, I think. Like at this point, that sentiment of just being so heartily sick of being sick is like all encompassing. Like I'm fed up, I'm cross, I'm immensely frustrated, and more than anything, I'm just so tired. So a bit silly, but it fits. I then went to Wales, and this was really, really lovely. So my grandmother's birthday is the 2nd of May, and then a couple of days later, it's her husband, my step-grandfather, I don't know, his birthday is a couple of days later. And I went down to spend it with them and to catch up with them on the farm, and it was really lovely. It was a good bit cooler in like Reading. It had been up to 25 degrees at that point. And then I went to Wales and it was like 15, so that was really nice. It was really good to be, you know, wandering around without a coat because I didn't bring one, thinking that it would be warm, and it was a lot cooler, and it was just lovely. I spent, I think, 3 days in the end. On the first night I was there, they said to me like, oh, you could always stay, and I was like, oh no. And then I stayed, and then I think even on the last night they said it to me again, and I was like, God, I wish I could. I always find it quite difficult to leave. I think it's yeah, I miss it a lot when I'm not there. My grandmother had a great birthday. I think she said to us that it was one of the best birthdays she's had, which is really sweet. I was really, really glad to be there with her. Took a lot of photos. I posted them all on Patreon, so if you want the big breakdowns, they're on Patreon for like £3.50 a month, or whatever your currency's equivalent is. And I've been posting quips on there now too. They have this new thing that's a bit like adding tweets, and you can add like just single photos or short video clips, which I've really been enjoying. Those are free, so if you want to check those out. They're not, you know, super interesting, but they're cute, and I've been enjoying that, especially because I don't use a lot of social media anymore. So that's been quite nice to add on to Patreon. So I was there, I think, Saturday through Monday, and I spent a lot of time walking around the farm, a lot of time talking to my grandmother. I ate a lot of cake. We had so much cake. It was a lot of cake. I spent a lot of time in my grandmother's garden looking at the plants. She has a really wonderful mature garden. It's so established, and she has the most amazing plants in there. And every time I visit, I just spend ages out there like looking at all the little specimens because they're just so perfect. We went looking for some lost cows. That was kind of a whole thing. It was really fun. And then on the Monday before I left, we went down to Aberavon, yeah. and it was misty and it was nice, and all the locals hang out down there, like all the local old people just go down there to drink coffee and talk, and it's really sweet. I don't know, I feel like I could say a lot about this trip, but it was just very sentimental, and it was very, I think, welcome at this point, because I'd literally been in hospital the day before and I was incredibly frustrated and upset by the time they discharged me. And so to then just leave was ideal, I think, and to spend a couple of days in one of my favourite places. If nothing else, I just always feel better up there, like when you're up the mountain on the farm and there's no people around really, and like things are just different and they're quieter in some ways and very, very green. And I'm always just very grateful for the time I get to spend there. The train station coming back is very nostalgic. Nothing ever changes there. No upgrades to the station ever. It always looks exactly the same way as it has since I was a child. Yeah, it's just, you know, it was needed, I think. And then I had the calendar for May after that because I kind of wanted a separation between my two trips. So instead of putting the calendar for the start of that week, I did it for the end. I think oftentimes I do that in the month. If the new month starts at the weekend, I'll often do it the following week. Sometimes it just depends when I can be bothered to set the calendar up. And this was the one for May. I don't think I really knew what I wanted theme-wise for May. I knew I wanted it to be green because it would be a green month. There's a couple of birthday cakes for birthdays, a What's Wrong With Me sticker, and then one of my undermoss illustrations as well. And I think it turned out fine, but I'm not sure that maybe I did capture the mood. I'm not sure. I feel like normally I like them a little bit more, but ultimately it's just a calendar. I don't think it matters too much. And I didn't want it to feel super summery yet because May is not quite summer realistically, so I was trying to avoid using the summer stickers so I'd have them for the next few months. But I feel like I really did a good couple of spring ones for like February, March and April, or like March and April. So anyway. My weekly pages are still the same, obviously. I don't really add pictures here anymore. Sometimes I come back and add a sticker, but mostly they're just summaries of the days and the weeks so that I can see what I'm doing at a glance, or where I've been. So the Monday was my grandfather's birthday and I went home in the evening. I got home quite late and then I had 2 days and then I left to go up north. And then on one of the days too I met a friend, so we were doing something. We were just running errands. I slept basically this whole day and then I ran errands with a friend and then I travelled and I left quite early. So there was a lot going on. I didn't write anything those first few days, it just picks up when I start travelling. And you can see I had a chocolate milkshake in the car because I was saying to my brother there's something about a road trip with the three of us, my brother, my mum and I, that makes us feel like kids again. And so we got kind of silly with it, and when we bought food for the car we did it like kid pack lunch style with like cheese strings. And it was really fun, it was silly. So we went to Scotland and that was really cool. We did one night in Yorkshire with my grandparents and then we went up to Scotland. And we went to a couple of bogs. This one was Blawhorn Moss, which has been on my list for a long time. Both of the bogs we visited have been on my list for a long time. I've been aware of them kind of like since day one of my bog interest, when it first hit me like a truck in the middle of the night. I've been kind of aware of these two bogs ever since. So to finally get to kind of like make the trek up there and like see them in person is very surreal. Especially because I don't know that I anticipated my interest in bogs and wetlands to last as long as it has, and it's not getting any easier to deal with. I'm like, it makes me too excited, I get too worked up. But we visited Blawhorn Moss. This one is very cool. It's kind of between Edinburgh and Glasgow, so we did it on the way up. And it was like 5 or 6 p.m. by the time we got there. It was quite a difficult journey. There was a lot of traffic, a lot of stopping and starting, but thankfully the 1st of May is generally when the national parks in the UK like hit their summer hours, and they start opening much later. So this one was open till 9, I think, which was great. It was good. It was quite desolate as far as landscapes go. It was very grey, quite colourless for a bog. A lot of kind of like dead looking grass and sedges, not literally dead, but like, you know, kind of washed out. And there was a lot of exposed peat. I don't think I've ever seen so much exposed peat. I was like sweating nervously on behalf of the bog because exposed peat is not a good thing. It's not good for the bog. And there was quite a lot of it. There was one section where there was like a really big hole in the ground and there was a sign that just said don't fall in the peat hole, and I was like, okay. But they're doing a lot of conservation and restoration works. That's very well looked after. It's just going through it at the moment, I think. But it was really cool to see. I just have 2 photos because it was late and I was tired, and I think whenever I first enter a bog I'm a bit overwhelmed as well, and I'm not sure what I want to take photos of or what I want to look at, and it's kind of like a, you know. I was also there with my mum and my brother, obviously, and because my mum had been driving for so long and we hadn't actually gotten to where we were going yet, I think there was a bit of tension, so I didn't want to take too long. But they have a lot of boardwalk. It's really cool. And they have these sculptures, and the artist is called Jim Whitson, and he's known as like the Blazing Blacksmith, which is pretty cool. And so these sculptures are all around the bog, the Blåhorn Moss Nature Reserve. And they're really cool. They're inspired by the mosses. So this one I think is based on like the feather-headed moss. It's really cool. It was very nice. Would recommend. The Airbnb we were staying in was on the shores of Loch Lomond. It was really, really lovely. It was like a big old Victorian house, and it was all the plug sockets were very low voltage, and it had big wooden floors. It was really cool. And we would literally could like walk down the driveway, like it was grassy, and then go over the road, and then there was just the loch. So my brother and I spent a couple of mornings in the rock pools. I really love a rock pool, it does have to be said. I love a rock pool, so I love a morning just spent poking around in the water, and that's what we did that first morning. There's a photo of me here kind of balancing on the rocks, and then my brother crouched over a pool. Yeah, it's nice because when I was in my pocket size ring binder, I remember that I used the photos big on the page and I liked the effect of it being a bit like a photo album. And in the past when I've been in personal size binders, I've just put a couple on each page, so they've been smaller. But when I moved back over again this time around, I knew that I wanted to maintain that effect, the kind of photo album effect. And so when I come back from trips or when I'm documenting events, I now try to pick like a couple of photos from each day. Or a few photos from each day, and I make them big on the page, and I just commit to having to fill the writing because I like to be able to see it big and to kind of capture that mood. So it's interesting, and when I look at these I can feel it, you know, and that's really satisfying. So that day we had kind of a late start because we were really tired from the drive, so I think we left to go to the second bog. Originally this was meant to be like a bog trip, and then it quickly spiraled into not a bog trip. But I did manage to do 2 bogs still. So we got to Flanders Moss for midday. We had lunch at the picnic tables there, and then we walked around the bog, and then we had somewhere else to go after that as well. So it was like the days were busy. And I think for that reason I didn't really take any video footage. I had wanted to, or I'd kind of been thinking about it, but then when I was there, obviously I didn't want to take too long because I wasn't the only one there, and I didn't want to be too wrapped up in my phone either. So I just took a lot of photos in the end. But Flanders Moss, this was a cool one. I'm trying to work out how to talk about Flanders Moss without info dumping. Basically, I have never seen a bog so healthy and so colourful and so like happy. I've never seen a bog thrive so well. So these ones are some maps of the reserve boundaries and then of the water tables from 2024, I just think it's interesting. And then I just have a lot of photos. So Flanders Moss is a low-lying floodplain of the 4th estuary. And I wrote a lot of technical information down because it's such an interesting place. This picture is me holding like a little sphagnum moss noodle. When you see it on the water and you can see them kind of on the top, if you scoop them underneath, they're like noodles and you can pick them out of the water. And then you put them back in, obviously. But I was posing with it like, you know those photos of men when they catch a particularly impressive fish? I jokingly was posing like with my moss like it was an impressive fish. And then my brother took some photos, and it was funny, it was silly. and I was just so happy to be there. It was so good. It was so green and so yellow, and there were all these pools of water, and there was cotton grass out because it was like early May, so we were in time for the cotton grass. We were like perfectly on time. Here's my noodle again, my sphagnum noodle. And I got nails done with like spirals, very undermoss coated, so I was really pleased. Everything was like just right. Yeah, it was just, they have a viewing tower, like a rickety little, we went up there, and my brother, because he's a younger brother, he's a little brother, he just started shaking the whole thing, and like immediately he was jumping and he was like rocking it from side to side, and my mom was like shrieking. Yeah, classic little brother antics, to be honest. But it's cool because when you climb up to the top, you can see across the entire reserve, and only a section of it's boardwalked. There's a lot of boardwalk, like you can go around it for a long time, but there's even more further out within the bounds of the reserve, and you can see the different textures in the landscape for where they're doing the restoration works. And I just think that's incredible. It's just very cool. A photo of me and Luke here with all the mosses. It was, I don't even have words for how colourful it was. It was really amazing. I think I said to my mum and my brother, I'm stuttering because I'm too excited. I said to my mum and my brother, I think it's the best bog I've visited. Like it's the coolest, best example of everything I've learned in the last couple of years, and just to see it all in one place, because there was sundew and everything as well, and just to see it all in one like truly thriving location was so incredible. I think the part of the reason I didn't take videos as well is like I was too overwhelmed. I was a bit stunned, like I was a bit frozen in place, because I was like, how do I not take photos and videos of everything? Like how do I choose what to take photos of? It was a lot. It was very, very cool. And then in the afternoon then, so this would have been maybe like 3 o'clock, we went to Loch Ard. They have a big forest there, and there's kind of like a trail you can do. It was a sculpture trail. This is the trail. It's a sculpture trail, but I don't think we were looking close enough because we only saw like 3 sculptures. I think some of them were kind of like tricks of the eye things. You have to really be looking for them, and we were not looking. I think we were just too distracted. But this is the bog, Flanders moss, and then up here is where the forest is. I've drawn a line. It was really cool. Very big, very mossy, very green. I have never seen so much like heaped moss. Like the texture of the landscape is incredible. It was quite warm on this day actually. Generally speaking, it wasn't too bad, but I remember being very warm in the sun when we were walking this trail. This one is from a pamphlet I picked up in one of the visitor centres, and it's a guide to the Gaelic place names, I believe, which is really cool. I thought that was neat, so I added that in there with those tabs. It's just a lot of photos of moss, I won't lie to you. When I came back, I think I had something like 6,000 photos of moss on my phone, and I had to sort through them properly this morning, so I had enough storage space to film a video. It's just a lot of moss, but the trail was really lovely, even if we didn't find sculptures. It went on for just long enough that we started to wonder if we'd gotten lost and gone wrong somewhere, because you follow the trail markers, but sometimes there's quite big gaps between them. I tried to take a nap in the moss, but my family wouldn't let me. They just wanted to keep moving. I would have killed for a 15-minute moss nap. But yeah, that was fantastic. This is the view across that loch, and there's like a house and some beautiful red trees. Really cool. Really, really cool. I haven't spent that much time in Scotland, to be honest. I've spent a lot of time around a lot of different parts of the UK. I think the UK has so much to see. But I've never been lucky enough to do a lot of Scotland, so to do so much of like the Loch Lomond area this time was really nice. They have a lot of bogs, so I want to go back. And then we went to this island on the next day. You take a little like passenger ferry, it takes like 10 minutes, costs £10 to cross, and then you can hike a trail around the island. I don't want to try and pronounce it because I think I would do it wrong. But you can do this trail that kind of loops. There's a summit, and then you come back down again, and then you get back on the ferry, and that was really cool. A lot of bluebells, so many bluebells. My brother and I looking very sleepy, and that's on the summit, and you can see the other like the other islands across, and I think Ben Lomond as well. Oh yeah, here. This is the island, so we went to this one. It's cool, and you can see this one kind of like low down, so that's this one here, which I think means like Long Island or something, and you can see it going along this stretch, and then this is the mountains. And this is also from a pamphlet from the visitor centre. Not much ephemera from this trip, to be honest, which I think is a downer. It kind of sucks. I love picking up ephemera, but also I'm not sure what I expected when I spent the better part of like 4 or 5 days like hiking. I don't know where I thought I was going to be finding ephemera apart from like clumps of moss. So I was grateful to the visitor centres for taking pity on me and having some paper maps. Yeah, this was good. I really enjoyed this. I managed to find a couple of stickers, and I managed to find like a patch as well, because I've been thinking about making like a sweatshirt, like I guess like a camping blanket with the places I've been, especially the bog areas maybe, don't know, it's probably a bit too specific, but it's kind of like something that's been on my mind, so I picked this one up provisionally, and I have a couple of spare stickers as well, so that was good. I was happy to find those. There's an ancient burial ground on the island, which was cool. Took a photo of that. There was a kid in there and he was talking and talking and talking. He must have only been 3 or 4 and he was so smart, and we were just like listening to him. I remember, it was really funny. And then we stopped by, I think you call it Luce, it's like a little village along Loch Lomond, and they have a Viking hogback stone that's in remarkable condition. I wanted to see that, so I made my mum and my brother go with me to see it. We stopped by and did that on the way back. We were meant to do a waterfall, but it was closed, which was really sad. I think they're doing maintenance work for the summer, so I don't think it'll be open until I think August time, so that was a shame. But we did this instead, and you can see it's like shingles like a roof. It's amazing. And then I found this illustration, I think on Wikipedia. And then the cemetery itself was just fantastic. Everything was so mossy, and there was so much like red lichen and stuff, and like everything was kind of worn away because of like the salty loch air. And the lawns were really well manicured. It was beautiful. They had so many graves too, like modern ones and old ones, like these ones with the skulls and the crossbones, and they're so like deeply carved, and there's just like moss all in the cracks, which I thought was kind of amazing. Yeah, really amazing. And then this was the view from our drive back to the Airbnb. We kind of had to do this thing where like you drive, we were kind of on like almost like a peninsula in Loch Lomond, and so you had to go all the way around and then kind of wind through this foresty bit past a naval base and then down into the little village. And it was quite a long drive. I don't think we realised how long the drive would be every day, but it was stunning. It was really beautiful. So, and that was one of the views from the side of the road. There's kind of like a lookout point, and we took that on the last day. It's amazing. And then this is the start of the new week. So we travelled back on the Monday, and on the way there, because Luke and I had spotted on Instagram, I think, that the Loch Lomond Sea Life Centre had was just starting the Animal Crossing collab, like I think the day before we were leaving, or maybe like on the Saturday and we left on the Monday. So we were like, well, we have to. We haven't managed to go yet because the Sea Life Centre in London is always so expensive, and then we thought about doing Brighton, but we just weren't organised enough. But because we'd be there anyway, we were like, well, that makes sense. So we went. Honestly, it was just okay. It wasn't, I don't think, particularly impressive. I think all of the British Sea Life Centres are a little bit run down at this point in their lives. They're such a staple of a British childhood, I think. Sea Life Centres, there are thousands of them, hundreds of them. And some of them are really, really cool. Like the one in Brighton, I think, is fantastic. They do a lot of conservation work. And then every now and then you'll go to one like, I don't know, like the one in Whitley Bay, and you're like, oh, okay. And you're kind of like, is this good for the animals? So I'm not sure. This one was okay. It was fine. But, you know, a little tired, it looked, I think. So you get the stamp rally booklet, and I was really careful doing all my stamps, and then when you get to the end, the lady behind the desk, the like sales assistant, if you will, she does the last stamp for you, and she fucked up my last stamp. Like she didn't put it on a flat surface, so like it went wonky and weird and didn't stamp the whole thing, and then like she just stamped again on top of it, and I was like, girl, like why would you do that to me? So I didn't keep that in the end. I was like, oh, at this point too, I think because we've been out for so many days and because my health issues are still ongoing and I was just really tired and starting to feel it, I took a lot of zolmitriptan while I was away. And I just like remember feeling in my soul like, I'm done with this. But I had the foresight, thankfully, to collect a couple of stamps in the back of my binder because I normally keep some scrap paper back there. And I have Stitch. I think I had one of Octavian as well. And then I cut this out of the stamp rally as well because I thought it was cute and I think the layering effect is nice. So I did manage to salvage some things. You get a blather sticker at the end, very cute. It doesn't say Loch Lomond on it though, which I find really annoying. So they're just mass sending out the labels instead of like customizing them to make them fit each location. But thankfully I did manage to get a sticker that says Loch Lomond. So we touch the anemones. You get them in like the little like rock pool tanks, and then there's a lady there who shows you how to do it, and you can just like brush your finger along the sea anemones. And they stick. They're sticky. I didn't know they were sticky. And she was saying that in other sea life centres in England, you're no longer allowed to touch the creatures because it's not good for them. And I was like holding hands with a starfish when she said it, and I was like, oh, okay. Not sure, but probably not good. But I did get a sticker that said touch the creature, and I do find that quite entertaining. And it does say Loch Lomond. Like even the fridge magnets in the gift shop aren't location specific, which I think is very disappointing. My mum's been collecting fridge magnets from our travels my whole life. We have too many fridge magnets, to be honest with you. It's a lot of magnets. I think she's got them on 2 sides of the fridge and then on a standing freezer as well. And we couldn't find one that said Loch Lomond, which sucks, to be honest. But we did manage to get the little stickers. So not terrible, but not great, I think. And the Animal Crossing merch in the gift shop, it was just like very low quality, if I'm being real. There were no stickers or a keyring or anything. Well, there were keyrings, but they were the plush keyrings, and they were just very lumpy and misshapen and kind of like stitched wonky. And I think, as I say, I was just in like the absolute correct mood to be very underwhelmed. But I was glad we went. We had a silly time. Luke really loves sharks, so Luke got a real kick out of looking at the sharks and stuff and the giant lobsters and everything. They had blacktip reef sharks, which are actually my favourite type of shark. I think of them as vampire sharks because they hunt together in packs at night. I remember watching a documentary about them once, and I was like, wow, these are literally vampire sharks. And so when I saw that was one of their like big features was the blacktip reef sharks, I was like, how cool is that? So that was our last morning. And then we stopped by my auntie's on the way back. She lives just over the border in Scotland, so it was really nice to catch up with her. And then we went back to Yorkshire to spend a couple of days with my grandparents. They had their 53rd wedding anniversary, which is very cool. Some of you might remember, I think I documented their 50th wedding anniversary in one of the Attic Archives episodes. We were on the Bakerloo line and we had some flowers and stuff. I don't know. I have pictures from it, definitely. I'm not sure if I put it in a video, but that was their 50th one. And this one was their 53rd, so that's very cool. They live in Redcar now in Yorkshire, so they, again, rock pools, all the rock pools. We spent a couple of hours rock pooling one day. And then we travelled back on the 13th, which I think was a Wednesday, I want to say. So Tuesday, rock pool day, Wednesday, returning home. And we went via York, because if you're really lucky, you can get £30 train tickets between Reading and York. And we managed to get one. They're horrible trains, don't get me wrong. Like, they're not comfy, and that's why they're so cheap, I think. But you can sit without having to change train between Reading and York, which feels like a miracle. So we stopped by, well, we went into York to get lunch on the way. Went to the ghost merchants. I did not think to bring them to the table, but I have a photo I can put. I got 2 ghosts. I really wanted to find some ghosts that felt like undermoss coated, and I think I managed it, so I got 2. And then I also got a perfume sample from the Society of Alchemists, and this one has like blackberry, vanilla, tonka bean, and something else, and it smelled so good. Couldn't believe how good it smelled, and I don't think they were very expensive, so I might look into that potentially. Had to cut my tabs to get them to stick, but I do love the layers. And the ghost merchants have good ephemera, it has to be said. They know what they're doing, they know what they're about. And then we came back, and then that was the end of that week. Oh, here's the photo of my ghosts. You can see them. I got one that's kind of like a colourful oil spill looking guy, and then I have one that's kind of like more of like a concrete theme. And I think between the two, that's quite fitting for undermoss. These are the fossils I found as well when I was on the beach in Redcar. I don't want to get them because I was really careful about how I placed them. I was thinking I could stand up and quickly grab them, but I placed them very, very carefully, and I don't really want to disrupt the placement, but there we go. And then the following week, I'm not going to lie to you, I was very tired, which I feel like is understandable. Hence, there are some gaps, and I didn't really commit to filling too much out. I came home and I basically just wanted to work on undermoss. And also Wednesday had a seizure that Monday as well. And that was nerve-wracking. Which day did she have the seizure? Tuesday. No, it was Tuesday, not Monday. Yeah, so she had a seizure. It was really scary because I thought she was just like tangled in the blankets. She's a small dog, so classic small dog behavior. She's always under the blankets, like she's not on top of them. She's not just hanging out, like she's in there. And she tucks herself in and she like wraps herself up in it tightly, and like I sit like long ways on the sofa, so she sits under the blankets under my legs, and I could feel her like flailing around, and like I think she was making a noise, and so I thought maybe she was tangled up or she got her legs stuck in like between the sofa or something. That's not possible, but I thought maybe it could be. So I lifted the blanket up and I lifted her out, and then I realized that she was like, it was not right, like she wasn't responsive, and she couldn't stand on her back legs, like she was seizing. And I don't know, I just put her back down on the sofa very gently, and then like a couple of seconds later it passed. And then she was fine, like she didn't know what happened. It was horrible. And then I took her downstairs to my dad, just in the panic. I was like, Father, what is going on? And he was like, maybe it wasn't a seizure, like maybe she just, and I was like, no, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, went to the vet, and they were like, yeah, that was definitely a seizure. And she's fine. The too long didn't read is that she's fine, but we have to keep an eye on her. The vet was saying that between 5 and 6 is when they have the potential to develop epilepsy, and she'll be 6 in July, so a little bit nerve-wracking. The vet was talking me through all the neurological symptoms to look out for, and I was like, actually I have a lot of experience with this. And then we were talking about how kind of strange and serendipitous it is that oftentimes pets really reflect their owners, and I was like, yeah, but I don't want it to have like epilepsy, like that's not ideal. But at the moment she's okay. There's not been any recurring seizures. We basically just have to keep a seizure diary for her, so if there are more then we have to document them, and then if they start getting closer together then go back to the vet. Kind of got the impression that it's not particularly rare for dogs to have seizures. That was kind of what the vet was saying. Yeah, it was scary, I won't lie, but I think thankfully because I am so used to neurological stuff, I might not be as freaked out as I could be otherwise. I'm kind of like, okay, I know what to do with this, like I know how to look for that and how to document it, and I don't know. So that kind of took up a lot of the week, to be honest. Even though nothing was happening, I was like, I stayed home with her to keep an eye on her, and she didn't go to daycare. I was working on undermoss, to be honest. I picked undermoss back up. And also because it got really hot, we were in a heat wave as well, which wasn't great. So it became, we went up as far as like 33 degrees Celsius, and the attic therefore was like 42 degrees Celsius. So we were sleeping downstairs on the sofa as well in the basement, and it was just kind of like one of those weeks that was so hot and so weird that like the whole thing is just intangible. Right now. This is the only page I have for that week. Yoshitomo Nara painting that just says headache. It's so true. What a guy. And that really does sum up that entire week, because like it was just, that's how I felt with those little pinprick eyes, for real. Again, my to-do list quite short as well, kind of like oddly so, but it was just one of those weeks. And then the following week, I think we're on this week now. Yeah, we are. Monday, my friend's birthday. She turned 30. Very exciting. Less exciting, I went to spend it with her in London, and it was 34 degrees Celsius in Central. And it was a lot. We went to a shooting range. I didn't participate because my vision is too messed up from my brain stuff. But my friends all got to practice shooting, and I have it somewhere. Where did I put it? Oh, I've got it. one of my friends took pity on me and they put a couple of bullets through the bullseye of like what should have been like my target, so that I could bring it home and cut it to go into my binder regardless. I haven't cut it yet, but I thought that was really funny. And then we were making jokes about like how no one knew I was such a good shot, and it was really funny. That was fun. And then we went back into Central, and we went to the NQ64 arcade. I've never been before, I don't think, but it was amazing. I had a really good time. I managed to get all the high scores on the Pac-Man machines. I am a fiend for old Pac-Man with the little Joy-Con stick. I love Pac-Man, I really do. It was a really, really good time. They have like old video game inspired cocktails and stuff. I had a Castlevania cocktail, like how cool is that? There were strawberry laces in it. It was great, and it's underground as well and very dark, and they had aircon, so it was cold and dark, and it was just like the perfect place to hide from like 36 degrees Celsius. We did Dance Dance Revolution. My friends and I did Junior Senior. We did terribly. She did better than I did, but I don't think either of us did particularly well. And this was the wristband from it. And then afterwards my friend said like the only thing she really wanted to do for her birthday was take photo booth pictures. So we managed to find one that was still open at like 5:30 in the evening, and we all squeezed in. It was really chaotic. I think there were 5 of us, and we all crammed into the little booth and took the photos. And then she let me keep one of them. We did 2 sets, so you get four like strips, and I was very glad to be able to keep one. So that was really lovely. Honestly, like as good as a 36 degree Celsius day in central London can go when you have to take the trains and stuff. Shout out to the Elizabeth line with its air conditioning. It was really lovely, especially because the week before was a bit odd obviously, and I'd been busy and tired, and kind of, you know, it was just great to see everyone and have dinner and catch up and play video games. Turns out I'm really good at playing Smash Bros on the N64. I had a really good time doing that. I kept beating everyone and I don't know how I was doing it, like I was just button mashing. But it was delightful. I was really, really glad. And then Tuesday I had a hospital appointment. I had to go to Oxford to pick up my actigraphy watch because I'm doing my sleep study again. I have that the week after next, so I've got 2 weeks with the actigraphy watch, which I hate. It like burns me. I don't know why. Like I don't know if it's friction or if it's... I had the same problem with my Apple Watch where like it just seems to burn me. I don't know. My dad always talks about how his dad, my grandfather, my grandpa, he can like, something about his body, his static energy is not right, and therefore it breaks watches. And I wonder if I have something similar, because like they always seem to like electrocute me. It's not just that I have burns when I take them off, but it's like they zap me, and I'm not sure what causes it, which is why I stopped wearing my watch. So I don't know. But I have to wear that for a couple of weeks, and I'm keeping a big sleep log again for it, and to be honest, I'm trying not to think about it because I really hated my first sleep study. I really didn't enjoy it. If you've ever done one, you know what I'm talking about. They just suck. They're not enjoyable. And I finally got to read the report from my first one like 2 weeks ago, bearing in mind I did it in 2024. I'll not talk about that. I filed a complaint. It was a whole thing. And nothing came of it either, so... But I read the report and it was really funny because basically they were like, there's something wrong with this girl, but we don't know what. That was like the summary of the report, which is not ideal. And this time around I have to do a sleep study that's twice as long. They want a bigger picture of the data, and I just like, I don't want to do it. Like I keep having dreams that I wake up at like 2 in the morning and I phone the hospital to cancel the sleep study because I don't want to do it. And then I wake up in the morning and I have to check that it's still there in my NHS app because like I'm so desperate to not have to do it that like I am literally like dreaming about cancelling. So like, not ideal, man. Ran some errands on this day, and then I did some more undermoss work. I can show you the undermoss work in a bit. And then yesterday, big highlight, got to do double feature at the cinema with my friend, my horror movie friend from last summer. He will have a summer job this summer, so we won't be able to do our like horror girl summer, which I think is such a letdown. Honestly, shame on him for getting a job. But we got to do a little horror girl summer as a treat, and last night we did double features of The Backrooms and Obsession. And like, ooh, so The Backrooms I feel like was really, well, I think it was good. I don't think it was perfect. I don't think it was ever going to be perfect the first time, but I think it was really good. I think if you think of it like a proof of concept, like, can this big, weird, sprawling internet thing become a successful movie? Could a company like A24 and a very young niche director take that and turn it into something watchable? The answer is yes. It was good. I was reading in this backroom subreddit afterwards because I used to be really into it, but I've not kept up, and so I think I was missing a lot of the context needed to catch the little Easter eggs and stuff, and I saw people discussing everything in detail, and that was really helpful. And they were talking about how potentially there'll be like a prequel and a sequel if it did well, which it did. I think it broke A24's box office record actually, so that's cool. And so I'm really looking forward to potential future installments. I think it was a really fun time, especially as someone who grew up kind of like on the internet and very much in like the creepypasta, don't sleep, like folklore areas, and like ARGs back in the day when they were first kind of like a big thing. I think this was very satisfying to watch for that reason, and I think it was a good time. It was really interesting. I was amazed at how scary they made the backrooms feel when you were in them. Like when they were filming within, it was actually like, it was very creepy, and that was really, really quite good. So I did enjoy it. And then we decided, oh, these are the wrong way around, but we decided last minute to see Obsession. We watched this, and this ended I think at like 4:30, and then we had like half an hour to get food before the next one if we wanted to watch the next one. So we did, we got pizza, we always get pizza, and then we had enough time, so then we saw Obsession as well. Obsession is one I wasn't sure if I was going to see because I'm not big on psychological horror, and my brother had said that he saw it like a week and a half ago, and I remember him saying on like a FaceTime call that he's never been so stressed while watching a film, and I was like, oh, that sounds horrible, I don't enjoy that, like that's not the kind of horror I like. But we took a chance on it because there's been so much buzz, and I'm so glad we did because I actually like think it's one of my top movies of the year so far. It was like genuinely thrilling in how horrific, and like it was just a lot, like there was a lot happening, there's a lot going on, and like it was just very well done. And the actress, the main actress, like I don't have words for how good she was. Like when something happens at the beginning of the film, there's like a shift and it's like immediate, you can see it in her body language, and like she's backlit so you can't even actually see her, but you can still tell. It's amazing. She was really, really incredible, and I loved the way it ended and everything. Like it was just like, it was 10 out of 10 the whole way through. I was having a like great time. I kept saying to my friend, like we were in the cinema, and I kept telling to him to be like, this is so good, this is fantastic, I'm having the time of my life. It was really good. It was really, really fantastic. If you have the chance to see this and you're not squeamish, I mean, check the warnings. There's like a pet death, for example. There's a cat that dies early on, and that's kind of like a small recurring plot point, if you will. So just check those things. But if you're a horror fan and you love, you know, there's a lot. I recommend it. It was very good. And the backrooms too, I do also recommend. I think it has such promise, I think, and as a first installment, I think it was very good. Like I had a good time. I think I enjoyed the first half more than the second half. I think most people will know kind of like the point I'm talking about. There's like a point where something happens and then the tone kind of shifts, and it lost me a little bit for that second half. It's kind of not the way I thought it would go, but the whole first half of the film was fantastic, really, really good. When they were setting everything up and kind of first exploring, I thought it was like 10 out of 10. And then I think maybe the second half dropped down to like maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 for me. Like with an asterisk, in that I think it's a very, very good proof of concept. That's how I keep describing it. It's like, as a proof of concept, it worked, and I think it did that very well. So those are my reviews for Obsession and Backrooms, and I love a double feature. Like I love a double feature. So I was very glad we got to squeeze that in last night, especially because we won't see each other for a few weeks, I think, a couple of months maybe even, while he does his job and I have all the hospital stuff. So to get to squeeze in a little horror movie like featuring while it's still warm out was really nice, very welcome. And that is where I'm at. That is the end of my binder. I'm not sure how long the video is so far, but that is everything that's been going on this month. I am honestly quite eager to archive some stuff. Obviously there's a lot of pages from Scotland. Yeah, and I think I'm ready to put them away for a while. We're at the very beginning of June now, almost. I think it's June on Sunday. So I've got to make a new calendar and kind of tidy things back up again. I picked up an A5 meeplus binder, and if you weren't sure if I was being genuine before about how much I love meeplus, I hope this is the one that convinces you that I am being genuine. Because I wanted to start an A5 commonplace book for undermoss. Originally I did that in a paper notebook. I picked up Astrology at one point and I was using that, and then I realised that like, because undermoss is a digitally drawn product, it would just make a lot more sense to have a digital commonplace. And so I've been typing pages up like I used to for my A5 binders, and I've just been using that same format for it, and it makes more sense. So I have, you know, the different pages and the illustrations I've been working on. I drew this illustration of Miles and the shopkeeper, and Miles in his garden. And then I have this poster of my characters I've been working on. And then I have this new character I've been working on. No spoilers yet. And then I've been working on new pages. So I decided, because I had worked out I wanted them to be A5, and I think initially I was going to do A5 landscape. But it's difficult and it felt quite restrictive. It just wasn't clicking in the way that I wanted it to. I liked it in theory, but it just wasn't working. Something about it wasn't working. And then that week in between Scotland and doing stuff, when it was hot and weird and Wednesday was a bit poorly, I just started drawing. I was like, I wanted to write undermoss, and then I just started typing it, thinking I would just make commonplace pages about it, kind of like writing fanfic of my own universe. And then I started drawing as well, and then it just kind of like, it became a thing. So I have these pages. I have kind of like the attic and the kitchen, and then I have the shopkeeper in the shop, which was fun. I got to draw stuff from my grandparents' shop, and I drew a floor plan for it, and the floor plan is actually based on my grandparents' shop. Like loosely. It's not 100%. They had a back corner that kind of extended outwards. But loosely speaking, this is the layout of my grandparents' shop. So there was the door kind of like on the side. And then this freezer wasn't here, but it made sense for the illustration. And the counter ran along the back, and there was a magazine stand, and then there were shelves, and there was 2 beer fridges. And then the back corner was where all the tins were, and then this stretch would have been like crisps, and then this one was another shelf, and it had like bread and stuff like that. And there were baskets with like pot noodles. It's weird to think about because it's been obviously a good couple of years now since the shop closed, and I really miss it. I do, and I think about it, and it's just strange because I spent so much of my life in there like walking on the terracotta tiles, and you could see the tread path of so many people over so many years. Yeah, it was quite satisfying, I think, to draw the little floor plan and know that it wasn't too far off what I spent so much of my life doing. Anyway, yeah, so this is kind of loosely based like the lollipop stand, the Chupa Chup lollipop stand. That's very reminiscent of my childhood. And like the bananas that are always just a bit too brown, that kind of thing. There's stacks of newspapers on the counter, and then I had some fun with some of the rest of it, like Ramune soda, because it's so fun to draw. The ghost cards from the first issue are on there. There's like an Easter egg. I added some ghosts, like ghost merchant style ghosts as well, so there's a couple of little Easter eggs in there, and a sticker on the counter. I don't know, it's just fun. And then I have these pages. Vivian is back, judging, always judging by the abandoned house. And the backpack that I drew for the landscape pages originally, I drew it again for these ones, and the commonplace entries as well, so I had fun with that. And then I moved these pages, so these were the ones I drew for the landscape pages, and because they're still A5 just turned the other way around, I was able to just like flip the canvas and then pull it out without having to redraw them, and it came over fine, so that's really good. So I think I am still going to do this kind of like fake video game style for some of the pages, and then I can just go back and forth between the 2 different styles, and I think that'll be nice, and that you still get that effect I was talking about last time, where like I wanted it to be bigger so that you could open it flat and you could look at it and you could really feel like you were in there. And when I look at these bigger pages now, I do feel that. And working bigger allows for more details as well, and I love a detail, so I think it's coming together well. I'm working on the next couple of pages now with the Doctor, the introduction to the Doctor. Drew some snowdrops. Yeah, I think it's coming together well. The rest of this is just blank paper. but that's kind of like my undermoss commonplace work in progressy book. I'll update you again in the future, probably not the next video, but like maybe when there's more to look at. I'll show you again. And this is the the A5 meeplus binder. Carry this around the house with me. On the side I wrote anything not saved will be lost, which I really like, and I made these charms for it too, little undermoss coated charms. And in the back I have this little folder that sticks out too far, one of my oracle cards and some stickers. I want to add more in here, but I've just been so focused on doing the undermoss work itself that I haven't done it yet. My Filofax branded pocket sticks out too far because they make them so huge because their A5 binders are so oversized. So I don't see that as like a fault with meeplus because they hold A5 pages perfectly. The actual pages are perfectly within, like in there, which is what I want. When you use something as big as A5 as a binder, I think as compact as you can get is ideal. The oversized ones are so big, like they're just so big. They're so much. So this is perfect for me, and because it's kind of like a sketchbook type place anyway, the overhang for this doesn't really bother me. And there's actually not much in there at the moment anyway, so I could always take it out, but I love it, big fan. It's interesting because now that I know about meeplus and I have a pocket, a personal and an A5, I'm like, I'm sorted, I'm done. Like I don't find myself window shopping for binders anymore because like these are so perfect, they're so ideal, like they're everything that I need from a binder, and I'm just a very big fan. So not paid to talk about them, just genuinely really love what they're doing, especially with the gold rings, the Kraus rings, just so good. So yeah, I think the only thing I could like conceivably do in future is buy more meeplus binders to decorate in different ways. But for now I'm very content. I have been kind of missing pocket again, but I think personal fits stuff so well. Like this would not fit in a pocket binder, it would overhang, and I think I just have to keep remembering that because like, okay, the next couple of months will be quiet and I won't have ephemera in the same way, but at some point I will. Although having said that, I am seeing My Chemical Romance in July and I did buy a souvenir ticket and that won't fit in a pocket binder, so I have to stay in personal for them. Yeah, I go back and forth sometimes, but I think personal is the best. I think it's the most customizable for me, it's the most ideal, it's the most sustainable. I think pocket eventually does get too small, especially for tracking health stuff and even perfume. It's just very helpful to be in personal. And this one does fit in my coat pocket, can't forget that now that it's summer season and I've not got a coat on, but it does. So that is my binder for May. I'm sorry for the gap between videos. As I say, I'm just, I don't know, in survival mode, I suppose, if that makes sense. But it's always a joy to come and talk about my binder, and I hope that you enjoyed it. We're coming up on the half-year point. I'm curious to know if you guys are still in the systems you started in. I'm just nosy, always, just curious. If you want to talk about your system in the comments, I would really love to read them. I'm very curious, like how did your year end up so far? Someone pointed out in the Hobonichi subreddit that we're like 3 months away from the September or something, and I was like, I don't think the math is mathing, but you're not entirely wrong. In August we'll start getting previews again, and like that's interesting to think about. I am using just a quick one. I was kind of like, I don't want to show it because I don't want to jinx myself, but I have been using a day free this year, like a little A6 day free, and I just use it as a place to write by hand when I want to. And I do this kind of like 2-column system. And I think I started this in April or March. And it's just, yeah, very, you know, easy. And I just stick stuff in and then I write and then I stick more stuff in. And I like it. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but I just write here when I want to. It's very low pressure. And it keeps me in the loop, I guess, the Hobonichi loop, because I do get Fomonichi. But I love my binders. So what is a girl to do? Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. I do feel like I'm getting distracted and rambling a bit, but I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting. I'm still very content in my system, and I hope that's not getting boring for you guys. I hope you're still enjoying seeing it. Yeah, Okay, it is, I'm not gonna lie, it's warm in here. I had to turn off the aircon and shut the window and turn off the fan and everything to film this. And the dog is looking at me like she really wants the aircon to be back on. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next month, so long as the weather is permitting. It might be late, but it will be there at some point. It will be there. I will see you next time.